Yes. Roll call.
Ms. Harris,
Here.
Ms. Allard,
Here.
Ms. Beck, Ms. Crane, Mr. Harris, Ms. Kimber, Ms. Peel,
Here.
Mr. Pusateri,
Here.
and Mr. Ricky.
Here. All right, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Great. Let's move on to our announcements. Does anyone have any announcements that you would like to make on today? I see that we do not have any one wishing to speak today in our public comment period. So we're going to move on to our committee reports. Do we have any committee reports? Okay. All right, we're going to move on. Let's go to the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from October 21st, 2025? It's been moved by John. May I have a second? Second. It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The report will move as read. Let's move on to our resolutions. Resolution 5A, approval of union contract with 32 BJ SEIU. May I have a motion to approve? May I have a second? Second. All right, ready for discussion.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Proctor, and this is my resolution. Our current agreement technically expired September 22nd, but by agreement of both parties, it remains in effect up until a new agreement is reached. The vast majority of our maintenance employees are unionized with SEIU, which is a large national workers union. We, over the past few months, we've engaged in good faith negotiations and have come to a tentative agreement on all articles, so that the document which was attached is tentatively agreed to by both parties pending this board's approval. I will note that Articles 5 and 15 should have been supplemented. An older version of those made its way into the final clean copy. Note 5 and 15 that you do have in the board packet there are in fact the tentatively agreed to versions of both of those articles. The most substantial change would be that our maintenance employees would come off of our health insurance and go on to SEIU's Health Trust Fund, which is a win-win. We pay 100% of the premiums except for family coverage, which we will then contribute $250. That still is a good financial decision for LMHA as well, considering the cost of our insurance. There are other less significant changes. There's an emergency works on call schedule, which is beneficial for LMHA. The addition of an Oaks Day holiday for the unionized and off the top of my head, those are significant changes. There are others, though. I'm happy to answer the questions.
Do you have any questions, comments? The only comment I have to make is that I want to thank you all for giving this to us early. I also thank you for the training that you all did, call it a training, the training that you all did with us on so that we could get our questions answered on Monday. So thank you so very much for that.
Well,
all right. All right, we're ready for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, 5A is now approved. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Resolution 5B, approval of 2026 health insurance contract renewal with Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield. May I have a motion, please? May I have a second? Second. All right, ready for discussion.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Mike Bianco, Executive Director of Finance. Eric just kind of picked me up here a little bit for a renewal on our medical. This is going to be the fourth and final renewal under our existing procurement agreement, which allows for 4 one-year extensions without additional bidding. So just a little bit of background on this, some of the members of the board, we've had these conversations in the past couple of months. But the most two recent renewals we had with Anthem saw our premiums increase by 25% in 2024, and then another 20% in 2025. So these sharp increases were mostly attributable to high cost claims, and the continued offering of too expensive grandfathered health plans that have been phased out by most comparable organizations. Fast forward to the current renewal, 2026 calendar year, Anthem had again proposed a premium increase. This time it would have been around 12%. However, after strategic plan adjustments and union negotiations, as Eric spoke to, we are able to secure a 30.1% decrease in total premiums compared to 2025. So the total estimated premium that we're seeking approval for in 2026 is $5.2 billion. So just potential increase of 12% to an actual decrease of 30%. There's a little bit to unpack. So I'll go over the two most significant changes. One, again, referencing the union agreement, transition all of the union covered employees off of LMHA's plan and onto the 32 BJ Health Fund that Eric spoke to. Again, just to echo those sentiments, even with LMHA now 100% of the union member premiums, this amount still ended up being lower than what the employer portion of our cheapest plans would have been having to stay on. Second, a little bit less significant, but we did retire our two most expensive plans, which were the HMO and our low deductible PPO. We also added a high deductible health plan, which allows employees to utilize a health savings account, which would partially be funded by LMHA. We estimate a net savings of approximately $1.8 billion for the 2026 calendar year. And that is even after for accounting for the new costs associated with the union plan and the HSA card contributions for non-union staff. It's also important to note that this $1.2 million savings is comparing our premiums to last year's rates. If we instead compared them to what the 2026 premiums would have been with their proposed increase, had we not made the changes, the net savings would have been closer to about $2 million. Amazing. So finally, we respectfully request the board's approval of authorize Executive Director Elizabeth Strojan to execute a renewal contract with Anthem for the period of January 1st through December 31st, 2006.
Wow.
A lot of work.
Does anybody have anything to say?
I have a question. I think that would be the vendor on BMS. They're currently our vendor for the FSA. So we don't. Well, yeah, it's just they're offered, but yeah, we figured it because we're going to stay on to the PPOs that we have to do. It was just going to be easier to add their plan rather than find another vendor. And the other is a comment. I think it's sort of said it, but I really appreciate the work that Eric, you've done. Fred, welcome to the team.
Yeah.
I'm not skipping them in pretty big first. Eric, Michael, and Elizabeth, great job. This is not easy work. We'll need to work on a long time. So congratulations. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And my sentiments exactly is what John said. Ditto. Ditto. All right. Anybody else have anything else? All right. We're ready for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Resolution 5B is approved. Thank you so much. Resolution 5C, authorization to submit 1401 Bicknell Avenue and 1801 Sagaga Street to Housing and Urban Development Special Application Center. That's HUD SAC, sorry, for disposition approval. May I have the motion, please? So moved. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, ready for discussion.
Good afternoon. I'm Pam Bishop, Director of Strategic Initiatives here at the Housing Authority. Through this resolution, we seek your approval to submit what is known as a Section 18 disposition application to the HUD Special Application Center to allow us to transfer ownership of these vacant lots. The lots in question are 1401 Bicknell Avenue and 1801 Cayuga Street. Together, these comprise 30.8 acres of land. These were previously a portion of the Iroquois Homes public housing site, which was demolished in 2011. We've been talking about all of these co-development deals with these for our legacy sites. And this one in particular is the one with Denton Floyd Real Estate. So we have, already talked about an MOU with them, which we have already executed. And I'll go into more detail here, but we do actually have an application pending with Kentucky Housing Corporation to begin developing housing on this site. We executed a memorandum of understanding with Denton Floyd on August 11th, 2025, outlining the principal terms and mutual commitments, which this board approved. We anticipate that the redevelopment will consist of 2 phases of housing. One on the primary parcel for the first phase of 19.96 acres and a secondary parcel of 10.8 acres. The MOU that was approved by this board establishes the key terms, including ownership structure, ground lease provisions, developer fee, asset management fee splits, and other key terms. LMHA will take this MOU and negotiate and execute a master development agreement consistent with those terms. On August 19th, Denton Floyd Real Estate submitted an application to KHC for competitive 9% tax credits for the development of phase 1 of this multifamily housing project, which will be called Hazelwood Grove. And KHC anticipates announcing the awards in January 2026. LMHA will maintain a long-term ground lease on this land, which will ensure affordability for up to 99 years. Approval of this disposition request under Section 18 will remove deed restrictions from the property, which require Section 9 public housing on the subject property, thus allowing us to move any future housing into a different program. The redevelopment will provide income restricted housing affordable to residents earning up to 80% AMI. And the project, to do that, the project will utilize low-income housing tax credits and will be supported by project-based vouchers, which will be administered by Louisville Metro Housing Authority. The first phase of the redevelopment would include 72 units, and those would be dwelling units, 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. And it will also include a clubhouse in that first phase. And I'm happy to say that KHC is seriously considering that application. So we're still keeping our fingers crossed. So we would need to have this disposition approved in order to close on this deal with Denton Floyd in order to enter into this ground lease.
Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir, yes, it's the property that's over by the Iroquois Park. He said we're doing it, that's location.
Yeah, where we had the groundbreaking for Iroquois Senior Living, where we conducted the groundbreaking. It's a very, very large piece of vacant land across from where Iroquois Senior is currently being built.
Okay, yes, okay.
Right across Bicknell.
Yes. Down that one, yeah, it's okay.
And this is totally separate from the property management, correct? Okay.
Thank you. Look forward to it. All right, we're ready for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, resolution 5C is now approved. Moving on to resolution 5D. Authorization to submit 12.2 acres of 1400 Bickle Avenue for the Housing and Urban Development Special Application Center for disposition of approval. And that's through the HUD site. May I have a motion, please? And a second?
Second.
Move to second, ready for discussion.
Okay, thank you. As part of LMHA's strategic plan, we are looking at not only all of our legacy developments and public housing sites in terms of what's right for repositioning, but we are also examining all of our vacant lots. And so back in April of last year, or this year, excuse me, we were contacted by JCPS via their Department of Planning, Design, and Construction letting us know that they were looking for a site in the neighborhood for construction of a new middle school. And so, in looking at what we had available, what the city might have available, and what might be on the commercial market, we finally did kind of narrow in on this piece of land that we have available, which is across the street from Bicknell, from the parcels we just discussed, and adjacent to the Iroquois Senior Homes site. It's also adjacent to Hazelwood Elementary School. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea of where that is. Let's see, the school that they are looking to replace in the future is the current Frederick Law Olmsted Academy South, which currently has about half of what they anticipate could be in that school, but when complete, the school would host up to 1,000 students in grades 6 through 8 and up to about 100 staff. Currently, I think there are just under 600 students there and about 650 to 60 staff and faculty members. LMHA has consulted with District 15 Councilperson Jennifer Chappell, as well as Mayor Greenberg on this plan. Both are in full support. Any proceeds realized from the sale of this vacant parcel will be transferred to LMHA Development Corporation for use for future development and preservation of affordable housing in the county. And I'm happy to take any other questions.
Question.
Yes, sir.
With all the budget issues that the public school system is having, is this gonna be a funded project by them? You know?
We have not heard otherwise, and we continue to meet as we're working with Susan Bazzioli, and we meet with her about bi-weekly just to check in. We have drafted LOIs at this point. And she knows. Yeah. This receiving authorization of receiving this disposition from HUD-SAC would allow us to enter into that LOI with the Board of Education and would allow them to start their due diligence and, really make sure that this is an appropriate site for the school, do some preliminary design and all of those things.
What happens if they do fund the purchase of the land, but it stays vacant for too many years because they can't do anything else?
If they purchase the land outright, then it is there. If we're under an option agreement and a development agreement, which hasn't been contemplated, there could be some other
Vacant
alternative.
tends to cause problems, but I understand when you have something sitting there for too long. It just attracts different things.
Well, we would be coming back to this board with terms of an LOI. So
I would suggest just see if it could be fully funded for whatever reason. Somehow you've got to get that guarantee. You just don't want it sitting. You don't want it sitting vacant.
Up a little, that would be very.
You just don't want it sitting vacant.
Sorry. And I can't speak for, of course, JCPS, but it's been communicated to us that this is a more immediate need. And that there have not been any other parcels of sufficient size in the area that would accommodate this project.
But I mean, I couldn't agree with you more that vacant properties are not great, which is why when we were looking at all of our priorities across our entire portfolio, this enormous vacant plot, the former Iroquois home site was at the top of the list because it is such a problem. Encampments, theft of infrastructure that we're then responsible to clean up and secure again. I mean, it's a huge problem. So we certainly don't want JCPS letting it sit vacant, but LMHA has let it sit vacant
Right.
for 14 years.
It's a matter of control.
Yeah, and in this case, they have to mow it and clear encampment, which is a win for LMHA.
So who owns it now?
You do,
Oh, okay, so we own it. But if they purchase the land,
then they own.
and then we will do enter into an LOI
Yes,
to make sure
we
that
would,
it's.
LOIs first.
Yeah, oh, the LOI will be first. Okay. Okay.
and before that, we would come back to you all
Okay,
for
good.
approval.
So the HUD approval of the disposition, as well as the mayor's support and the LOI are required components, as well as this approved resolution are required components of the section 18 application. So that we would have to have that all buttoned up, and then they would have, once the SAC approves the disposition, then that is a trigger for JC, that starts a clock. So that JCPS has X number of days to complete their due diligence and determine whether they want to execute. If they don't.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you for explaining. Very helpful. All right, does anybody else have any questions?
Could this piece of land be sold to someone else other than the school system?
Yes.
I mean, a private developer could buy it too.
I mean, if we,
If it's a fair market value, we could sell it to whomever we want to sell it to.
Let's say Denton and Floyd wanted to buy it and do another project on their own. You could sell it to them.
We could.
Has the property ever been listed for sale with anybody?
No. But we also want to make sure that we keep in mind, our overall goal, right? Is to continue to increase the amount of housing for those who need it most, right? So if they don't have the same, I would think if they do not have the same goals that we have, I would be very cautious about listing.
So I don't disagree that that's one of our goals. One of the other goals would be to maximize the potential value and proceeds of the sale too. And that often can be done by trying to create competition for the site.
So I think that what we're talking about with JCPS kind of hits multiple goals. We are getting fair market value for the property. And we're also contributing to the city's overall need and this neighborhood's need for a new middle school. Like if you've been, watching the news about JCPS, they are in a budget situation, but they've said they're in a situation where they have to continue to construct new schools. And when you look at the list of schools that are costing an enormous amount of money for them to operate, the schools that are overburdened in terms of, kind of busting at the seams, this is a school that's on there. So this relationship with JCPS allows us to check many boxes, including, helping our budget, but also helping the city and the community's needs, specifically a community to be home to LMHA residents once again. So I think it's a good balance of those goals.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. I just want to throw out another
And I think that,
idea.
we have vacant plots throughout the county, mostly concentrated in West Louisville, because we had to show site control over a certain amount of properties as we embarked on our big Hope 6 redevelopment in the past. So we have to go through a process now for all of those properties about what do we want to do with them. And for some of those properties, it should be about maximizing our potential to get money that we need to invest in other areas. For some, it can be, can we develop or can a partner develop affordable housing or a home ownership opportunity? So I think that would be a good opportunity to sit with you and to sit with the board and show you all the map of our properties, because it's really an impressive footprint. We know about we talk a lot about the units that we own and maintain, but we control a significant amount of property in the county. And for each of those, we have to have a strategy that kind of hits as many of our policy goals as we need to.
Anybody else have any questions? Did that satisfy?
Sure.
Oh, thank you. Are y'all ready for the vote? All right, all those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? All right, resolution 5D is approved. Thank you so much. Resolution 5E. Authorization to submit 1.7 acres of 400 South 13th Street to the Housing and Urban Development Special Application Center for disposition approval. We're looking at an upside down here. Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing on.
I'm sorry, we need a
another-
motion. Oh, Lord, did I do the motion? Oh, Lord, may I have a motion to approve? Did I forget me?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second? Thank you. Ready for discussion? And thank you.
Thank you. This resolution is in regard to a small portion of 400 South 13th Street, which is kind of the end cap of New Walnut Street Park, the park that was just recently opened up in the Russell neighborhood that was formerly the Porter Paints commercial site. This parcel, when the first concept of the park came about in collaboration with the Beecher Terrace Recreational Amenities Leadership Group, we had some development land as part of the park on this end cap. And because of rising costs, we had to kind of scale back our park development. So we have this kind of neatly delineated end of the land. It does currently have and will continue to have a deed restriction on it that it remain a public park area or open green space area. JCPS had also approached us with interest in this parcel to be used by Central High School. In recent years, all of the high schools in the area have been transitioning from grass turf to artificial turf in their fields, including their track and field areas. There are some track and field events which cannot be conducted on artificial turf. Those are shot put and discus, thank you. Must be done on grass, and sand pits and so on and so forth. The problem this causes for Central High School is that without having those two events, they cannot host a full track and field meet. So they will never be able to host a full meet where they would be able to sell tickets and so on and so forth and raise revenue to support their athletic programs without also having these two sports. Additionally, because other schools are having similar problems, they could, this piece of land could host other schools to practice on this piece of land for the same purposes. Just to give you a little bit of an idea on which end of the park this is located, Global Central Community Centers is it's right across the street. They're right across Muhammad Ali from there. Again, 1.7 acres with as its market value of $475,000. I've kind of covered why Central High School is in need of such land. I will also add that New Walnut Street Park being managed by Louisville Metro Government Parks and Recreation. The Parks Department also did a pretty good thorough search of what other vacant parcels they might have in the area that would be suitable for this, and none were identified. Central High School also proposed to include a partnership with the YMCA to utilize the entire site, which would transform the south side of the lot into an urban agriculture program for the neighborhood youth. And they would conduct other types of community activities that might include, pop-up markets and other gatherings. All activities that, as with New Walnut Street Park, all activities that would occur on this lot must align with Brownfield's property management plan. Because this site is a part of the larger Vision Russell Transformation Plan, we did consult on multiple occasions, the last being October 1st, 2025, with the Beecher Terrace Recreational Amenities Leadership Group. Louisville Parks and Recreation also attended, as well as Coach Steigel from Central High School and staff from the Chestnut Street YMCA to fully flesh out their plans and present that to the leadership group. After we conducted that meeting, the leadership group did come to the conclusion that they would like to recommend that LMHA move forward with this proposal from JCPS and the subsequent sale of the parcel to the Board of Education of Jefferson County. But they did request continued consultation as design and planning would move forward. And then also in the statement of facts there are a couple of aspects, very important aspects of the Vision Russell Transformation Plan that are supported by this transaction, including improvement of health and safety for residents and improving community connectivity. And again, this approval from the HUD SAC is required not only to transfer the land, but this board resolution is required to be part of that application to be allow us to release those restrictions.
So the full 400-some-odd-thousand will go back into our budget?
Correct.
Let's do it. Okay. Will we have still a HUD requirement for it?
No, it would not. It does have a deed restriction for use as green space, and this would, align with that. So we wouldn't be seeking to change that, but it would lift the HUD restrictions currently on the property, which require public housing or, some sort of housing.
Do you mean the money
So the actual money that we receive,
would be programming?
Program income, unrestricted.
yes. That's what we can.
The good-
Yes. Anybody else?
I would just like to ask a general questions. So we have had 3 properties. And they said they've been appraised like at market value who does that?
Who does our appraisal?
Yeah.
Who's our appraiser?
We use a few different ones. We put it out for bid each time we request an appraisal. I believe this was Brian Sanderfer
On all
for
3 of
this
them?
one. I'd have to go back and look who did it for each one.
Okay, so when you put it out for bid, do you pick the least expensive appraiser?
Michelle, do you,
You know,
our department doesn't select the
my guess is
appraisers.
unless it's gone for bid or go, just get a few quotes.
Just quote.
Yeah, you would select the lowest, as long as they're responsible, I mean, they're qualified, yeah.
Okay. So I hate to be like get us down another path, but in my experience as being a builder and a developer, let me ask you this. So has that become the sales price you're willing to sell the property for?
For these purposes, to sell to a mission-driven entity that's gonna help with our transformation plan of the neighborhood, yes.
Okay, so if somebody says, I'll give you whatever the market value is, and you're considering that's a good deal.
For something like this, yeah.
Okay,
If we didn't have all these other kind of goals, plans, responsibilities, I think we could try to jack up the price.
well, or I don't know if I'd use the word jack up, but maximize, whatever. But in my industry, there are appraisers that I know are gonna be more favorable to me. And it really wouldn't matter if they were $100 more. If I knew that they would tend to be on the high side, that's where I wanted the appraisal to be. Versus someone who didn't have that tendency or whatever.
Well, we do, we have discussed this internally of wanting to expand our network of potential appraisers to contact for this work. Because I think we've kind of had, the same players involved for some time. So we would certainly love to add some folks to our list to request information from. I'm not sure how our procurement policies impact.
I guess
how
my
we
point is
choose.
trying to see how I can be beneficial is if the appraisal is going to end up determining what the property sells for, any input you can give to the appraiser, comparables, what your expectations are to get the highest legitimate appraisal. Because I think you could bring 3 appraisers out there, and if they didn't talk to each other, they potentially gonna come up with three different prices. So you want to the best you can, try to get the one out there that's gonna give you the highest arm's length appraisal. Just food for thought. I just know how my industry works, and there's people when they're gonna do the appraisal, you cringe, and then there's other ones you're quite happy that they're gonna be doing it.
Well, I think that's a great point. And when we get to our, last resolution, we're preparing for the sale of our former Section 8 office building at the corner of Seventh and Chestnut. We got an appraisal on that, I think last year, maybe this year.
It was last year.
Was it last year? Okay, so we probably,
It has to be redone.
yeah, we need another appraisal of that before we sell it, and that's the kind of thing. We don't have any transformation plans in that block. You know, it's not connected to our other development in any way, like not part of an LMHA sponsored kind of neighborhood planning process. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's just like you saw that.
Standalone deal, yeah.
I have maybe a question or a comment on the south side portion. It says it's gonna be continued planning. Cause this is the part that butts up to the railroad as well, correct?
A small, if you're thinking of a rectangle, the the short top part of that
Mm-hmm.
does kind of butt up to the railroad, as
Mhm.
does all of the rest of New Walnut Street Park.
Right.
Yes.
So, and I get having the sports facility because you could access it from Muhammad Ali, like if you were going to the football field or to
Yeah,
the
the
school,
kids
like
can
that
walk
makes
there.
sense. And then you have New Walnut Street Park, but then like to have urban ag in the center and you have two really active parcels next to it, it just seems like a recipe for disaster, like poor little fruits and plants, you know,
Oh.
like.
We have asked lots of questions, as did Frank McNeil and others that are on our leadership group, about how far can you throw it, a discus and a shot ball, and it turns out it's really not that far. So I don't think there's concerns around that necessarily. I do understand what you're saying about just, people coming in and out. I think that, really, the urban agriculture part of this,
Mhm.
in my mind, is more likely going to look like something like some raised beds, some beautification, just additional opportunities for green space that can be activated in a variety of ways. Because we still have to do that exploration of how does that vision align with the restrictions around the brownfield plan. So we're not going to be like growing corn in that dirt, probably.
Yeah, also.
So, yeah. So there still would be a lot more yet to come, and I really appreciate the members of the leadership group who want to be continually kept up to date and provide input on what happens there. But really the athletics department at Central High School said, we really need somewhere to do these events. We would not necessarily need all of this land. So we'd be happy to work with another community partner to activate the remainder of it in a way that's beneficial to the neighborhood.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be urban ag, like it could be, what's that game people play with the sandbags? Like it could be
Yeah.
other
Sure, it could.
activity in green space.
Yes, I think they're interested in the agriculture also because Kentucky State University has a site
They do.
at Global Central Community Centers,
Mhm.
and they are, one of the #1 in the world for urban agriculture, and they're really interested in doing programming at Baxter Community Center and kind of in that general area.
Okay. I don't want to be closed-minded. I was
No.
just, okay.
Maybe we'll raise some fish.
That part. And we do need more fresh produce within the area. In raised beds, not from the ground.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
You can always take that dirt out and bring new dirt in.
All right, we're ready. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, we're ready for the vote. All those in favor of resolution 5E, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Resolution 5E is now approved. Moving on to resolution 5F, authorization for contract award document scanning services. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
May I have a second? All right, thank you. Ready for discussion?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So pretty much what this is saying is that, as we try to digitize a lot of our files, starting with the HCV files, which are actually located in the United Building, which Miss Elizabeth was saying we want to get rid of. So what we want to do is, in order to digitize those, we need to scan those into our current Century File program. And so what we did was we sent out some RFPs for some scanning, companies, and then we got one back, and the one that actually won, based on count, was Info Plus.
So based on how much the cost was per document, is that how it went?
Yes, basically, the costs that are included are, per file. File may have up to 300 pieces of paper in them that may need to get scanned. Also the moving of storage of files as well. The storage being, of course, while they're in wait to be scanned. And then there are also some documents that will be held, or stored, for an elongated period of times until the, term date has come to place. So each file has to be kept for up to 3 years after termination out of the HCV program. And so, right now they're in the basement at United, and so they would hold those, and the cost, was based upon per box. And then, of course, upon scanning, they would have to be shredded and destroyed. So the cost also included the destruction of said boxes or said files. And so, of course, 1 month after the file has been scanned, they'll contact us, say, hey, can we go ahead and destroy this file or these boxes? We'll say yes. And then, of course, for those that have been sitting there as, term files, when those dates that are on the box come up, they'll give us a call and say, hey, is it okay for us to destroy these files? And they'll be destroyed. But we have to hold those, of course, for, any type of, auditing or things of that nature. The goal is 6 months for the HCV files to get out of them. And they will take them out of the building, be stored in their facility, and they'll be working on them. So they will also be, available. So if we need to call, so that, let's say there's an audit opening open forms request, then they will, we'll be able to call them, and they'll be able to access the files. They will have a proper record keeping for each one of the files. So after HCV, what'll happen is that we also have some documents also in the basement of United, for the finance department as well as CID. And so we want to be able to utilize them as well for those files.
Is it the way to go? All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions, comments? All right, we're ready for the vote. All those in favor of resolution 5F, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Resolution 5F is now approved. All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are now done with our resolutions. We're gonna move into our discussion item. We will have a board briefing by our executive director, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Okay. So what I want to talk to you guys about today is starting with the culture change that we've been talking about the last few board meetings, and that we've had the pleasure of meeting and talking with some of you individually about. Oh, it's not on. Wait, is that better? Can you hear now? Okay, is it working?
Yeah, now.
Okay, great. I do have one of those voices that does not carry as much as I talk. So I want to talk about our culture change goals, and then talk about how we're catalyzing an internal campaign to push forward on that culture change, and how we're hoping that that translates to better outcomes for residents of our public housing properties. So as we've talked about before, I think that I first introduced this when we were walking through the results of an audit we received, that we requested for our public housing and operations team. And the group, the AMA consulting group, really talked a lot in their final report and in their processing with us about the culture at LMHA and the need to kind of shift from an employee-centric workplace into a resident-centric workplace with the right processes and procedures to better deliver to our clients. So the goal of the culture change that we've been embarking on for the last almost 2 years, and that continues because it's a very long process, the goal is to align our mission and vision teams so that everybody understands what our mission is, what are our goals, and how do each of our jobs align with that. We want to move to a resident-focused approach. You know, I described it this way recently in a meeting that we are resident-focused and our buildings are our clients. Like, we have to take care of our buildings and our properties so that the residents have a better outcome. And to do that, we have to update our policies and procedures, which sounds like it would be simple. It sounds like it would be, okay, we did it this way, now we're going to do it this way, but you have to get buy-in and you have to get people to buy into the change and perform the change in order to update that. And the ultimate goal is to stabilize our properties. So we're gonna, I think the next slide, we're gonna watch a video that we rolled out at our recent all-staff meetings that kind of sets the stage for our internal campaign. Hopefully it works. Am I in charge of this? I'm not. Oh.
Fury and frustration tonight as several people living inside Global Metro housing properties lined up to lay out how they're living.
Living in 2 Global Metro Housing Authority properties are claiming they're living in poor conditions and their maintenance requests are being ignored. She says the water destroyed her carpet and led to mold in her apartment.
For decades, public housing in Louisville has carried stories about challenges, about aging buildings, about struggle. But those stories don't define us. They remind us why our work matters. At the Louisville Metro Housing Authority, we're launching a new internal campaign. Would I live here? A question meant to guide our work, challenge our assumptions, inspire pride in what we build together. It's about more than maintenance. It's about dignity. It's about walking through every property from Avenue Plaza to Wilkie C Plaza to Miltemeyer to Liberty Green, and asking ourselves one simple but powerful question. Would I live here? When I walk through a unit, I think about how my own family would feel walking into.
It's the small things, checking the leaky faucet, the paint, the light, to show the residents that we really care.
We're not just improving buildings, we're investing in people. From finance to compliance, from capital improvements to property management, from maintenance to Section 8. Every department plays a role in shaping the resident experience.
We might not be out in the field every day, but every number we crunch impacts a family's home.
Our job is to make sure we do everything with integrity, because fairness builds trust.
When we find housing for a family, we open a door to stability.
It takes all of us, every department, every person, to work together to make sure dignity and pride show up in everything we do. We've seen transformation before, and we'll see it again, because LMHA is moving forward. We are redefining what public housing can look like. We are investing in people, places, and potential.
When we ask, would I live here, we're not just talking about building. We're talking about building an LMHA we can all be proud of.
No matter the location, every corner of our community tells part of our story. And every one of us helps write the next chapter. Because when we build with pride, care with dignity, and serve with heart, we don't just improve housing, we improve lives.
It's such a good video. A huge thank you to Jalen for putting that together with our colleagues at Metro TV, and great work to all of our burgeoning acting talent within the agency. So we rolled that out at our all staff meetings, and I think people enjoyed getting to see their colleagues on there and really kind of connected to the message of the video. And the point of our meetings was to kind of reset why we're here. Like, we are here to provide housing, which is a very basic need, to people who have been left behind by systems, government, private finance. Like, we are serving people that everybody else has kind of walked away from. There are many neighborhoods where we are the only positive investment coming in. That's a very large mandate. It's a very large task, one that we have to take seriously. So this campaign did not just end with the video. We are planning pre and post engagement surveys to kind of track attitudes and understandings of our mission and our tasks and our job before we do tours and think tank sessions. And then afterwards, the goal of the think tank sessions, we'll do small group tours with staff to see our property and come back to kind of process, what did we see, what needs improvement, what can we kind of agree upon that we're all going to act on to try to make things better at this site. So the Would I Live Here campaign is one piece of this puzzle to try to connect people to why we're here. Which brings us to our properties. As we've talked about before, and as we saw very clearly in our strategic plan that we released in March, all of our properties need attention. Our public housing, every single site runs at a deficit currently. Our capital needs are large and growing. Preventative maintenance is a struggle because there are so many emergent work orders and there are so many things happening that need constant attention. We're really struggling to create a preventative maintenance plan and get ahead of that. Our rent collections and lease enforcement remain challenges. You know, our long-term vision is to reposition our properties into different HUD programs that generate more revenue to improve the buildings and to operate the buildings on more solid footing long-term, but that takes time. So we started relocating from Dosker. We've got bonds set aside. We're still years away from that property being rebuilt. It takes time to get something in a kind of redevelopment pipeline like that. So what we have to work on is stabilizing our properties now. Even, you know, each property should be on some kind of pathway to recapitalization so that we can preserve it for the long term. But in the meantime, we have to save these properties now, and a lot of them have a lot of needs. So we've started looking, we haven't started, but we're newly refocused. Let me switch to the next slide. On our high needs properties. So these are properties where we have the most safety and security concerns, high non-payment rates, many lease violations, a high number of vacancies, issues with cleanliness, and unmet resident service needs. That describes a lot of our properties. The ones that we're going to talk about today are our two remaining legacy sites. When I started this job, we really talked about Dosker, Avenue Plaza, and Parkway Place. Dosker is now 90% vacant. I believe we're still on track to hit, thank you, to hit our relocation goal by the end of this year. If we slip in that goal, it will be by will be people just waiting for their logistics to move after the end of the year. So we've made great progress, obviously, on that site. But Avenue Plaza is still at least a year and a half or so away from a financial closing to begin the comprehensive rehab. And it seems to be destabilizing. We are relocating Dosker residents, many high needs Dosker residents into the building. So we know that we have a plan for Avenue, but I just want to reiterate what we're doing here. It's slated for major rehab. We actually reopened the request for qualifications for a new co-developer partner. We selected a partner. I forget when we did that, earlier this year. Last year, whenever we did that, we weren't making progress with that co-developer partner. in terms of a financial deal that we thought was good for LMHA. And the intensity of service needs became more apparent during that time, and they just weren't kind of equipped to develop and maintain a service enriched environment the way that we need. So we've reissued the new RFQ. We've had almost 60 people look at the RFQ and review it at this point. And Pam, when does it close? December 5th. Okay, so that will be open through December 5th, and then our internal team will meet and make another recommendation to you all to move forward with a different co-developer partner. We were more specific in this one about what we want to see, what the terms are, and what the level of service needs are. We do have bonds set aside for this fall, or next fall, I guess, a year from now. What we're working on is surging staff to the location, specifically janitorial staff. We have new standard operating procedures about expectations for cleanliness of each hallway, each floor. We installed cameras on each floor, which has been a longstanding request from residents to feel more secure and safer. We're discussing redeploying some of the off-duty police coverage that we had at Dosker for many years, some of that to Avenue Plaza to kind of increase security there. We're working with service provider partners. We're having conversations with, for example, family health centers to bring a mobile medical unit to the site. And we're working on what we're calling the Plaza Pilot with the Department of Corrections in Wellspring to try to bring a community-based intensive mental health pilot program to the site. A lot of the issues we see with residents appear to be mental health related. So actually next week, we are beginning needs assessment surveys with residents of Avenue Plaza to help inform what we need to do now to further stabilize the property, and then also what we want to see through the redevelopment process. In these internal conversations that we're having, our data and policy team are working to create property scorecards. So we have already inspection scores from HUD. But that doesn't tell the whole story. So we're working on, and we don't, if Michelle was here, she'd be like, I want to see it. Let me see what the numbers are. So we'll share it when it's ready. We're working to refine it, but we're looking at indicators such as, 911 calls and emergency responses, incident reports filed, payment and non-payment information, work orders outstanding and work orders performed, vacancies, in addition to those inspection scores. So the goal is, if we're surging all of these resources to try to stabilize a property, how do we know it's being successful? So we're working on it. Any questions about Avenue? Avenue is 224. Is that right? Yes, that's right. 224. So. And we flip to the left, thank you. Okay, the last but not least, I wanted to mention Parkway Place. We just had a coordinating committee meeting this morning for the planning process that's in progress. They broken, we have resident ambassadors working with us who have put together working groups based on housing, beautification, youth development, workforce development, and what's the fifth one? Safety and security. So we have folks kind of drilling down on what would the best future of Parkway look like in those areas. We completed a resident needs assessment, and we just received recently the final report from the U of L. Did I send that to you all yet? Okay, I'll send that to you all. I think it was really enlightening to hear what residents of Parkway are currently experiencing and what they want. Their top concern is crime. So, we're working with Office of Violence Prevention, and we're trying to figure out how do we stabilize the safety and security of that property. It's not like Avenue's a high rise. We can put a camera on every floor. But Parkway is really spread out across multiple buildings, not all of which are highly visible. So the serious safety concerns are something that keep a lot of us up at night. Part of the problem there is that we have really a lot of vacant units. So the total number of units of Parkway is 630. 636. We have 109 vacancies at that property. So vacant, we talked about vacant land, vacant units are a similarly problematic issue. So we're working to turn those units over and to get them leased up with, folks that are supposed to be there to kind of keep out bad elements. But we will keep working on these kind of troubled properties, and surging those resources. But I wanted to update you all on how I think the culture campaign is related to this. Because we have to make sure that, I can call a meeting and be like, well, what are you doing? And what are you doing? And what are you doing? But we need everybody every day thinking about, is this acceptable? Is this not acceptable? Would I live here? Would I not want to live here? Would I recommend my parents live here? Or would I not recommend my parents live here? And if the answer is no, I don't want to live here, this isn't acceptable for me and my family, what can we do right now to make it better? Like, we can make plans for the next decade for how we're going to reposition, but what can we do right now? These are people's lives. This is our responsibility. So does that make sense to folks about what we should be focusing on? Okay. I think that's all I have. Which focus groups are you talking, what are you talking about? Oh, yes. So the meeting that we had this morning was for the full coordinating committee that's working on the Parkway Place redevelopment plan. So we got a consultant to help run this process. So the meeting this morning was with residents, LMHA, and stakeholder groups. So Office of Violence Prevention was there, Parks and Recreation was there. Louisville Urban League was there. We had like a lot of partners in the room for that. So every quarter, that big group comes together to get a readout of progress on the smaller groups and then give feedback on what should be the focus. So the smaller groups, I believe, are led by the resident ambassadors. Is that right, Pam?
No, each working group has resident ambassador representation. But they are kind of subsets of the coordinating committee with additional folks layered in.
Okay.
From stakeholder groups.
Okay. Is that what you're talking about? The housing, safety, youth development, workforce development? Yeah. Yeah. We can send you the information for when the coordinating meetings are and then when the working group meetings are. I think the working group meetings are coming up in another couple of weeks, but if you all are welcome to come to any and all of that. But if your colleagues are interested in weighing in on any of that, I mean, I think your group would obviously be very helpful on the housing conversation. I don't think anybody was there from them today. Okay. So we'll get you that information. But it would be helpful for you and your group to probably come to both levels. If you're willing.
I applaud you for this, what I live here campaign. I think it's the greatest thing.
Oh, good, thanks.
Just within the uncertainty of this federal government, I can't put it any nicer than that. Is it worthwhile for you to shine that HUD that you're going through this campaign? Anything that makes us stand out in a positive way with HUD? It puts you in a good light, and maybe they would the other housing authorities throughout the nation, again, making Louisville stand out amongst the crowd. So
I think it's a
maybe
great idea.
promote this somehow to HUD.
I think that's a great idea. When we launched this, it was during the shutdown, but I happened to be at an event with someone from our HUD field office, and I was telling them about this, and I did promise to send the video, which I think I've neglected to do. And we are having, frankly, difficult conversations with HUD related to our Section 8 budget. We made decisions over the years when we used to have a surplus in our Section 8 program. We don't have that anymore because we're fully leased up. In fact, we're over leased. We've made commitments we're trying to honor. But then we said we would pay for all of these things out of Section 8 surplus, but the surplus doesn't exist anymore. So HUD is, we have another call with them on Thursday to kind of walk through some of this. For the first time this year, when we submitted our moving to work plan, they had very specific drilling down questions on our budget. Because in the past, we're an MTW agency, so we can kind of put all of our money into one bucket and kind of mix our sources, and we always had enough to do what we were doing. But now the funding situation has changed already from DC, and we do have a lot of concerns about what could be coming down the pike. But honestly, the biggest difference is that we're leased up on our voucher program. We're serving the number of people that we should have been serving this whole time. We're finally doing that, which is a lot more expensive than serving for people. And we're investing in our properties to make them better. We're spending money on the things we should have been spending on. At the same time, the amount of money from HUD is not keeping pace with what we need with increasing rents and things like that. So all this is to say, like other housing authorities right now, HUD is paying very close attention to our budget. And HUD is, really scrutinizing housing authorities and other grantees on what are they doing with their money. So I think that's a good idea to say, this is what we're doing with your money. Good idea.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We truly appreciate that. And, I ditto again what Lance is saying, it's a lot of work. You all are doing great work. But I applaud you on even more so is the fact that you all are working with HUD to keep them involved in our processes, how we're moving forward, how we're changing communities. And that campaign, I agree with you. It really needs to go viral. It really does. Because that's just something that we all should be asking ourselves every day, including those of us that's on this board, would I, and every time we approve a resolution, every time we support this board, we are really supporting the work of would I live there, right? So let us all speak of this campaign everywhere we go. We're at tables that some of them are not at. So at our tables, let us speak of this campaign. Let us speak of Global Metro Housing Authority and the work that you all are continuing to do every day, and how we are moving forward in those areas. Again, you never know who's listening to what you're saying when you bring up Global Metro Housing Authority. They may create something in their mind of how they can chime in and help with some of the things that we want to do in this community. So we never know when our goals are going to line up with someone else's goals. So let's make sure that we're out there doing our job as board members to make sure that this community, do not forget the important work that is happening at Global Metro Housing Authority. So thank you so much for what you're doing. I'm walk away from what I do every day. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be a part. All right. Now that I've said all of that, and my sermon is over. We will move on, and I would like to have a motion to go into our closed session today. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, we are going to go into our closed session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right. We're going into closed session. We're gonna have certain discussions, but we will not make any determinations or do any new business or anything like that in this closed session. So you all have a good day, and thank you so much for being here. It's not adjourned yet, so we're moving on.
Closing it out. Wait, Vicky will tell you when you're not supposed to. Vicky will tell you when you're not.